What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Luke Cage Season 1, Episode 4, Step into the Arena. This was a very interesting episode, mainly backstory for Luke Cage, and yeah, it worked out really well, so let's talk about it. First of all, we start off with how last episode ended. Cottonmouth blew up the entire building with a rocket launcher because he is freaking insane. So Luke Cage managed to save Connie. They're trapped under the rubble, and while they're down there, he's working on trying to get them out. And meanwhile, we're seeing flashbacks of Luke Cage in prison and how he became who he became. So it was very interesting to see the correlation. You got to see a lot of who Luke Cage was before. His name was Carl Lucas. He was a cop who I think was framed. They didn't really make that clear whether or not he was framed, but that's what it seems like they were trying to say. And once again, we have another prison where there's a corrupt system in place. One of the guards is like in charge of this undercover fighting arena, and he sees Luke and thinks to himself, I want him in my fighting arena. So he sends these two guys to test him. Luke beats them fairly easily, which turns out, we find out later, they may have been holding back a little bit, but we see that all going on. He threatens one of the two of Luke's friends that he has. His name is Squabbles. He threatens him with possibly more time in prison if he doesn't start fighting. So Luke reluctantly agrees. Later on, finds out we find out in this episode that Reva was apparently working in this prison. And if you don't know who Reva is, we found out in Jessica Jones that she was Luke Cage's girlfriend well before, she was apparently killed, I think, by Jessica, being controlled by Kilgrave. I think that's how that happened. I'm not entirely sure, I can't really remember, but I think that's what happened to her. So we find out how they met. Apparently she was the psychiatrist in the prison that was talking to Luke's group, so that's how they meet. She kind of gets to Luke deep down, and they start kind of a friendship / romantic friendship type thing. The main guard that's in charge of it, can't really remember his name right now. It was Harkman or something like that. It was something weird. But he's the one in charge of the fighting ring. He sees that they've got a connection, and he starts using that against Luke as well. Well, Luke finally decides enough is enough and tells her about it, and then tells Squabbles about it and says, I've got a plan in place. Unfortunately, the walls have ears in the prison. They threaten Squabbles and eventually kill him to get the information. Find out that Luke was going to sell the entire thing out. And so, Shades and another prisoner, who they didn't give his name, the two that attacked him before, attack him again, this time with weapons, and beat him nearly to death. Reva wants the doctor of the prison to save him, so he takes him to this place that had been talked about, which was this underground, scientific experiment type thing. I would say if I did have a problem with this episode, this would be the one problem, that you've already got an underground secret fighting ring. On top of that, in the same prison, you've also got a secret scientific experiment type place. All of this is going on in this one prison, and nobody is asking questions. I don't know. It just seems to have one secret thing going on that nobody's figured out about. That would be one thing. It'd be like, okay, fine. They managed to cover it up pretty well. But to have two secret things going on in the same prison, it just seems like it's too much inside of one prison to be going on and nobody figures out about, and nobody's asking questions about. But anyway, apparently they have this machine that can make people heal faster. So they start using it on him, and then the guard, Harkman or whatever his name was, he comes in and sees that the doctor's trying to heal Luke, and doesn't want that to happen because he knows Luke was about to sell out his fighting ring. So turns the machine on high. Sci-fi, blah blah blah, for some reason it overheats, electrical surge, and then Luke Cage is born. So, it makes sense if you kind of think to yourself, okay, this is a sci-fi comic book TV show. So you really have to suspend your disbelief here and say, not all of this is going to make sense. I understand that. And that's kind of my feeling here is that, yeah, that doesn't make logical sense that this machine has a button that takes it into overpower mode that causes an electrical surge and just sort of blows up and creates a guy with indestructible skin. But, it works in the sense of, okay, this is a comic book. I gotta think about it like that. This is a comic book. If you don't think about it like that, you're probably not gonna like it. But anyway, so Luke Cage is born, and what I really like about this final scene is once again the correlation to what's going on right now. We have Luke Cage and Connie. They're trapped inside the rubble, and just as he finds out in his flashback about he hits the wall, sees that he's super strong, and sees that it's not doing any damage to him, he starts hitting again and just breaking through the wall, and in real time he's breaking through the rubble. I just love how they have these little correlations back and forth between the flashback and present day. But once again, if I had to gripe about something in this final scene, I would say that the fact that Luke didn't get to get his revenge on that guard, the guard just sort of dies in the explosion of the machine that Luke was in. I wanted him to get his comeuppance in a more Luke type way. I wanted him to be able to. I wanted Luke to be able to take that guy down, but to have him just die because the machine exploded just felt kind of unsatisfying to me. But anyway, maybe that was just me. I wanted to see Luke get the victory over him in his own way. The final thing that happens, though, in the past is Luke manages to find Reva, meets up with her. Whew, I don't know why I'm yawning. It's the middle of the day. I should be tired. But anyway, so he meets up with her, and I will say that one thing I'm very jealous of as far as Luke goes, shaving. As soon as he started to shave, I'm just like, he doesn't even have to worry about shaving cuts. You lucky bastard. But yeah, he shaves his head completely and starts looking like how he looks now. And then they start talking about how he was going to pick his name. Why Luke Cage instead of Carl Lucas, and ultimately it's because his father was a pastor and he had this one verse from Luke, the Bible Luke, and then start talking about how his father said, talking about a caged man, if he cages himself, how he can set himself free, something along those lines. I can't remember the exact dialogue, but it was kind of funny. They made a little joke like, "Oh, so Luke Freeman?" It's just like, nah, that's a little too on the nose. And then it ends with, of course, everybody's there, all the media people are there after the rubble has been completely taken off of them and they've escaped. Just like, sir, how did you survive? It was a miracle. What's your name? And he takes off his hood. He's like, I'm Luke Cage, and that's how it ends. And so, overall, I would say it was good. It was good as far as the backstory goes. It was good as far as setting up how did this character become who he became. I don't know. I've seen it done in more clever ways. I feel like this was just, aside from the whole correlation at the end, it felt like this was just, okay, so he's trapped here, and then he's trapped here. It was very obvious for me. I guess I wanted it to be a little bit more subtle as far as the correlation goes. But it was okay for being a backstory. I don't think this is going to be an episode that really sticks out in my mind that much. Maybe it will later on after we find out more about if there is more stuff that happened at the prison that we don't know about yet. But for right now, it's just, I guess it's nice to know how he became Luke Cage, how he got his abilities, how he, now this, not only a fighter, we found out more about him being a fighter in this episode, but how he also got his powers. It was good enough. It was not bad, it was not good. It was just sort of, okay, this is episode where we learn about him through flashbacks. Okay, it works for me. It's not anything great, but it's not poor either. So I feel like that's just where it is for me, right down the middle. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What do you like about this episode, not like? What do you think they're going to do from here on out? Let me know all that. We can talk about, discuss it. Leave a like and subscribe for future Luke Cage reviews, and I will see you at the next one. Peace out.